Are you looking to improve your sales without resorting to pushy tactics? Welcome to Sales Made Easy, the podcast that helps you to achieve better sales results and gain long-lasting clients through relational selling. Let's get right into it. What is the good word? Thanks for joining me here on the Sales Made Easy podcast. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Just wanted to talk a little bit about sales comes to mind. And I think this has to do with how people view sales, even when they're not sales professionals or in business, they don't think of themselves as salespeople or that they're selling. Case in point, a person who is a photographer, loves photography, decides to start a business. That person has never viewed themselves as a salesperson, and now they're in business. Guess what? They need to sell. And selling, in my opinion, can be very natural. The problem is we often talk ourselves out of it. So think about all the different times you have sold in your life. Right from the get-go, right from coming out of the womb, we're making a sales pitch. We want our mama. It's that simple. We're making our call to action. I want my mom. That's really the start of it, in my opinion. And then throughout our very young, early years, we're beginning to negotiate. I remember my daughter saying this when she was 2 years old. She said to me, "Daddy, can I have 3 cookies or 2?" And in sales, we call that the alternative close. In either situation, she comes out with a win. And I couldn't help but laugh at her negotiation skills at 2 years old. So she was already thinking of a winning outcome. She didn't just come in and said, "Daddy, can I have a cookie?" Probably from experience, I could have said yes or no, and she didn't want to deal with the word no. So she came up with this idea, or maybe she watched it on TV. I don't know. Maybe she was watching Glenn Ross, the sales movie or something. But when she asked that question, I knew that she was going to be dangerous, number one, and that she had this negotiation skill working on it at a very young age of 2. So from then, you think of all the times that you negotiate with your parents. If you're asking for something, they are saying, "Well, I want you to do something in return for the ask," right? If you want to go out and play with your friends, maybe you have to tidy up your room first, or maybe you have to put the dishes in the dishwasher, and so forth. All of that is negotiation and sales. And, some part of it is along those lines is that we picked up on the emotional intelligence side of things. If we wanted something from our parents, we wouldn't ask if they were in a bad mood. We would recognize what kind of mood they were in. If they were in a bad mood, it was more likely that we would hear a no. So we learned to figure out when the timing was right for us to make the ask. That translates into sales as well today. Sometimes people are busy or they're preoccupied. They've got things on their mind. They're rushed. They're feeling pressure. May not be the best time to make an ask for the sale. A small ask at that point would be, how about we reschedule when you have some of these things cleared off of your plate? How does that sound? That's a small ask. That's easy for them. It's a win for them, and it's also a win for you. But those skills, I'm venturing out on a limb here that you may have learned them at a very young age. In school, we learned how to work the room, right? We knew where our friends were. We wanted to sit with them. We maybe kissed up to the teachers sometimes so that we could get a little more flexibility with our grading. When we got jobs, we learned how to ask for a raise. The first thing is we learned how to interview so that we would get hired. When we got hired, that was a sale, right? We won the sale, which was the job, and someone else didn't, maybe. And so we should feel like There was something about us that got us hired, and it had to do with you asking for the order, right? You asked for the job, you presented yourself well. Hopefully you were a good listener when the interviewer was speaking, that you were nodding along, you were showing emotional intelligence, you were asking them questions. So this, my friend, is all selling. So when I hear people say things like, well, I really don't need to know anything about sales because I'm not in business. Au contraire, you are in business. Everything, in my opinion, in life is about communication, and it's selling. It's selling your idea. It's understanding the other person. It's being a good listener. It's using your emotional intelligence. It's looking for a good outcome. All of that is sales. Sometimes the sale is we're just selling our influence. We're selling our desire, our goal. Maybe it's I want to eat Italian food this evening with my partner. Instead, they want to go out and get the Japanese steakhouse. Is there negotiation there? Maybe we're going to let them win, feel good about the Japanese steakhouse, and in return, we know the next time we'll get to eat Italian. But putting up a fight for it, always winning those situations, eventually the other person doesn't feel like they're being listened to, and it's not a win-win outcome. So there should be a trade-off, right? In that negotiation, what movie would you like to see? Recently, my wife wanted to see a kid's movie. I forgot what it was, Cinderella, something along those lines. I was like, nah, I'm not going to watch Cinderella at this point in my life. That might have been good when I was 8 years old, but I'm not feeling it. So that's okay, right? My sale at that point was, you go, have a good time with our daughter. It's just not for me. The outcome was she had a great time with my daughter. They enjoyed the movie. The outcome for me was I hung out in the patio, looked at the pool, played with the dogs, and enjoyed myself. So that was a win-win situation. But, could it have been a different outcome? Could I have gone? Maybe it wouldn't have been very pleasant. Maybe I would have been rolling the eyes. Whatever, right? So again, it's selling to some degree, letting the other person win the sale as well, because that's important for them. It's not always about us, and then that helps in the future relationship. So relationships are about sales, in my opinion. Your job, your negotiations, your relationships with your children. I mean, sales is across the board. That's why I say sales is life and life is sales. It's not because you're writing an order, but it's because you're negotiating, you're listening, you're using your emotional intelligence, you're getting progress somewhere, somehow in the relationship. Then when you have to buy things, right? If someone's coming to you, maybe they're doing repairs on your home, you're asking good questions, they are selling you, but you should also be understanding what their sale is and ask for what it is that you want and get clarity so that the person doesn't come in saying remodels the kitchen and it's not the way you want it, maybe because you assumed that they were going to do something a certain way, but the reality was they were thinking of one thing and you were thinking of another. Good people or good salespeople will listen, get clarity, make sure that they are on the same page, get things in writing, ask for good next steps. That too is selling. So one of the things that I look for in sales myself, my philosophy is the serve first, the selling will follow. So every opportunity when I'm speaking with somebody, I try, it's not 100%, I try to think of how can I provide value for this person. Sometimes it slips my mind, but that's where me going into a conversation, that's what I want to be thinking about. I was in a network event, meeting strangers. It was one of these meet and greet, speed networking, where you just laying a foundation, seeing if there's a connection between you and maybe someone else at the table. Well, this one woman who was there was very personable, and she said, I've got to be honest right now. I have a job, but I know it's winding down, and I'm going to be looking for something else. Great, right? So, we looked around at each other. It's like we asked a couple of questions, and then I went over afterwards and said, what is it you really want to do? Just hearing what the person said, what are your interests? What have you tried so far? I'm not selling anything. I don't look at her as a person that is going to buy my product, but can I provide value for that particular person? And knowing the people I know, after I asked a few questions, I got her thoughts. I said, you know what, you need to meet so-and-so. And we went over and introduced ourselves to this other person who might be able to make other connections, right? We don't necessarily know where that's going to work out, but giving this person literally 5 minutes of our time is super valuable for that person. Will it result in a sale for my product or service? Probably not if I just look at it directly. But indirectly, I believe that what we put out in the universe comes back to us. So just the servant mindset, that attitude of serving others, we will get reciprocity, maybe from someone completely unknown, completely out of the blue, and we'll say, oh, how cool is that? Out of the blue, this dropped in my lap. Well, I trace it back to the good that we have done previously, and now we're getting that reciprocity. Not that you're always looking for reciprocity, but just knowing that if you do good, good will come back to you is a great way to live. So in sales, in the business of selling, not just that everything is selling, but it probably works there as well, think about how you can provide value. Simple example, your spouse is speaking. You're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, and your spouse is speaking. Not that I'm guilty of it. Yes, I am. I'm guilty of this. How much better is it to put the phone down and look at the person that's speaking so that they have your undivided attention? Now, that's not going to happen in every conversation. I understand that. But can we do that sometimes where we're giving the person our undivided attention? You're at a network event, you're meeting with people, your phone is face up, and what you're seeing are the messages on the banner that shows that you had an email pop up, someone texted you, you got something coming in from WhatsApp, you got a message on LinkedIn, and each time that little flash, you look away from the person and you look at your phone. How much better would it be, not that I'm speaking from experience on that, wait a minute, yes I am, because this just happened yesterday, when I realized, right, when I finally had awareness of what was happening, I took my phone, flipped it over. I didn't want to put it in my pocket. It's not comfortable sitting down with the phone in your pocket, but I flipped the phone over. It was there on the table, and it was no longer a distraction. So what did that do for the person or for the people that were going around the table, introducing themselves and saying something, even if it was for 30 seconds? I'm pretty sure it made them feel better that they weren't going to be competing with the phone. So if we all do that, right? If we look for ways where we can provide value, which is sometimes it's turning the phone over, making sure the ringer and the buzzer's not on, giving someone our undivided attention, making a connection for them. There are tons of things that we can do to provide value for others. Then we're going to be recognized as a person who is a giver. have to admit, I don't feel like I've always been a giver. There have been situations in my life where I didn't feel like a giver. But when you figure it out, it's like there is no better place to be than when you had a giving spirit and you were helping others and serving people. That's where I get the most joy. And I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of us, when we think through it, the most joy we have in life is when we're helping other people. When it becomes all about us, all the stuff that we have, trampling over others, honestly, that's not going to make anyone feel great. You'll have regrets if that's all your pursuits are in life. So make it about the other person. Look for ways to serve them. The least we can do is to be a good listener. Maybe sometimes it's just making a connection, even at the grocery store, helping someone by putting a smile on your face, making eye contact of all things. It seems like people are really thrown off when you ask how their day is going and you look at them in the eyes and they glance up and see that you're looking at their eyes. I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's a different experience for them. Most are just going to respond without thinking. My day's good, everything's fine, not really give it any thought. But once you make the eye contact, that's where the human connection comes in. You start to see a smile. You can ask another question. You open up the dialogue, and this makes the world a better place, in my opinion. And that person feels good about themselves. They go on to the next person. They're feeling good, and it just snowballs into kindness one towards another. So I think that is a much better way to live. So do I think we're all in sales? 100% yes. If a newborn infant knows how to sell, make the call to action, and they do this throughout their lives, whether it be with their parents, their siblings, school teachers, on the job, in sports, coaches, you name it. We have plenty of opportunities in life to be selling and also returning the favor by providing value to others, being a great listener. This is all tied in to selling with dignity. So I look forward to our next conversation. Take that for what it's worth. But you, my friend, are in sales. So let's be great at it. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to Sales Made Easy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Also, you're invited to join the Facebook group Sales Training Selling with Dignity. Serve first, the selling will follow.